Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 14, Piano Lessons with Elvin. Hope you're having a great day. I want to go over the next series here. I'll just go over all the various types of intervals. This first video I'll do on perfect intervals and major intervals. Before I show you them, I won't show you them in every single location. I'll just give you the formula for them and a few examples. But so I assume by this point you know major scales and all of that kind of stuff, whole steps, half steps. You can view other videos if not, but I would stress that let's just refer to this video in terms of major scales and minor scales. With perfect intervals, they're always going to be the first note of the scale, the octave, and then the intervals fourth and fifth. I would stress that they're called perfect. If you want a less scientific answer, they just sound very pure and clean, and you see those intervals in major and minor scales, where other intervals will change depending on the scale you're in, but these are pure and they're prevalent in both of those. So I'll show you the first, fourth, fifth, and octave ones, and then major intervals here. And I want to view it as two main ways to approach major intervals, which will be, if you're very comfortable with all of the major keys, which I do have a video about major key formulas, every interval, sans the perfect intervals, will be major by default if you're playing in the major scale, or what we could call if you're playing in it diatonically. Every interval you'll play will be major just by default, which is not the case with intervals like minor. You wish that would be easy. But this is, so I wanted to do this video first because it's the most accessible, the easiest of the intervals to discuss. So that's the first way, is if you're comfortable with major scales, every interval you could play, besides, like I said, the perfect intervals, will be major. Major second, major third, major sixth, major seven. Or the second way you could view it is without context to the scale itself and more of what I like to think of as the DNA of the interval. And in this case, you could either think of, I wonder, like a major second would be a whole step, and that's always the case. Or, a major third would be, let's see, 4 half steps. So there is a more precise way where you could view all of the other major intervals in terms of the combination of whole and half steps. Except for the major second, which is also known as a whole step all of the time. So you could just think major second is a whole step. Besides that, you can approach these with a various combo of whole or half steps to determine it. I'll probably boil it down to the lowest common denominator and just do it in terms of half steps. But yeah, so there's kind of the preface to all of this. So I'll grab the phone and just kind of pop this out. Cheers. Okay, so just to start with the perfect intervals here. And I always like to start on C major. It's just the most easy to stare at, which will just be all the white keys here. C to C. So if we number each scale tone, a scale degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or back to 1, the perfect intervals will be 1, aka unison. Then the fourth will be here. Perfect fourth, called the perfect fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 notes apart. And that has a really open, pure sound. If you want to get into some of the more scientific reasons, it sounds that can occur very naturally, in like horns, or there's a thing called the harmonic series, where these are common frequencies found in nature. If you hear vibrations, there's even stuff with ratios, like a fourth is a 2-to-1 split of an octave. That stuff, I suck at math, so that stuff never, like, whatever, some love to view it that way. I almost just like to think they're perfect because that's just what people tell you they are, and they just kind of get it in your head. To me, I've never helped for me to think about stuff like that, like ratios and stuff. So anyway, unison, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and then octave. And the octave's perfect because in essence it's just the unison note. And notice how pure they sound. And if you want to count into the specific, like I was saying with DNA, you could count the perfect fourth as always having to be a whole step, and then a half step, or you could count it all as half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, perfect fourths always need to be 5 half steps. If we do a perfect fifth, it always needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Always needs to be 7. You know, and then we could do the same thing for octave. That is a slower way, more meticulous for sure, but sometimes I like to do that, particularly when I was first starting, as a way to double check myself. To me, the most straightforward is think, if you know the major scale, the perfect intervals are going to be perfect as long as you stick to that scale. So I'm just going to I'll go to D major here, which will be, so perfect. So as long as I keep in this key, aka what we would say playing it diatonically, there's the perfect first, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and there's the perfect octave there. I'll do it in one more scale. Let's do, I'm trying to think of one I don't do often. Yeah, let's do E flat. First, fourth, fifth, octave, or perfect eighth. Now, to talk about major intervals, that same concept is the easiest way to approach it is stick to the major scale itself, and every interval besides the perfect will be considered major interval. So here's a perfect 1, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major 6, major 7, octave. I'll go to D flat or C sharp. I like D flats, they're less spooky. Same thing. Unison 1, perfect first, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major 6, major 7, then a unison, or sorry, a perfect eighth or a perfect octave there. One more example, let me go to A. So A major here, same thing. Perfect 1, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major 6, major 7, octave. And if you aren't very comfortable yet with knowing major scales in relatively quick fashion, then we could break it down into the whole step, half steps combo. If I go back to this A major one, I could think major seconds are always a whole step, so just put that in your back pocket. Major thirds, I could view as 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. You know, and same thing, I can always count the half steps. For this, the 8 major 6, I could just count half steps again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's always going to be 9 half steps. So without any reference to any scale itself, let me just go to F. And if I want a major 6, I'll just count the 9 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. There's a major 6. Or, to me, what's the more efficient approach is if I know what the scale of F major is. Cool. And then I just go from there to the 6th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, all roads lead to Rome, so Roman Empire, yeah. Okay, so those, I mean, you'll find over time that you become so efficient with all of those methods that it's just happened so quick, whatever. But so sometimes it's nice to know the shape of the intervals without reference to key, because sometimes just thinking of key signatures might not fit whatever the circumstance is. Lots of times if I'm playing more modern music, composers stray from standard key signature rules quite often. So I don't really have a reference point to major scales. And in those instances, it's really nice for me just to know the inherent form of those intervals. Let's say if I go back to this A major, I'll do a different one. Let's say I want to do a major 7, which they sound gross, but if I make it into this chord, ooh, this is what you would call a major 7 chord. Now it sounds very pretty. But by itself, this would be a major 7. I could think, here's B flat, and just go count from the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or I could just think, once again, the amount of half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And once I know that there's 11 half steps in a major 7, I know that'll always work. Sometimes it's easier to know there's 12 full notes, so once you hit the 12th note, that's every note that exists on the piano, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or, it goes back, 12 is also 1, but sometimes when I'm doing this, you could think octave is 12 half steps, and 1 lower is 11, and that might be a more efficient route to get to a major 7th, and that's often how I think about it. If I always know a major 7th is 1 half step less than an octave. So here's an octave, shrink it down a half step. Cool. And so I'm just showing you a few different routes to get to the same thing. If that last one's a bit too confusing, I would say you can always boil it down to major scales, or even boil it down even further to just reading things in combo of half steps and whole steps. But yeah, so the perfect intervals will be the 1st, 4th, 5th, 1st, 4th, 5th, 1st, 4th, 5th, and octave. Then everything besides those will be major intervals, as long as we're in the major scale itself. Perfect 2nd, major 2nd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6th, major 7, octave. Or, or I could think in terms of whole steps and half step combos. Oh, there's a major 3rd, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or maybe it's nice for me to think, let me go to like a G sharp. Okay, well, octave is 12 half steps, so I can count down from there. 12, 11, 10, 9. Cool. 9, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sweet. There we go. So it's like 3 ways to get to the same result. But yeah, I hope that's cool. I hope that all makes sense to you guys out there. I'll do the next video on minor intervals, and then there's 2 more after that, diminished intervals and augmented intervals. I might squeeze all of those into one video, but, I do like to explain things a bit more, so I'd rather do less with more explanation, just because when I teach, it just always helps for you to not just obey me and just do as I say, which I was doing a lot with some of my beginning lessons, and I had all these questions of why is it called that, why is it like this, etc. But I just had to do it by rote at that moment, and then down the road I got to understand theory more and then see why it is what it is. So I just like to kind of explain that now so you feel a little bit more comfortable, because for me I always felt like there was this bit of a hole, like, gosh, I'm doing it and it sounds great and it's all of that stuff, but I don't know what I'm really doing. If someone had asked me about it, I'd be like, well, I don't know, it just is that way, I guess. So yeah, anyway, hope you have a great day when you're watching this. For me, it's the weekend, so I'm excited for it. And if you're watching this like 10 years from now, I hope the future is super cool. So I'll see you guys at the next video. Peace out, and have a great time practicing. Cheers.